She thought the Arctic would reveal beauty. Instead, it revealed a predator. One wrong step on frozen ice, one massive polar bear watching, and her dream became a nightmare. This is the true story of Sophia Müller, a wildlife photographer who came too close. The story begins with a sound, the quiet click of a camera shutter, echoing through an empty art studio. You can almost hear the hum of fluorescent lights, the faint smell of oil paint still hanging in the air. That's where Sophia Müller spent most of her life, capturing beauty and stillness. But lately, stillness wasn't enough. On her classroom wall hung a large map of the world, its edges worn from years of pointing and dreaming. Pinned right at the top, a small photograph of a polar bear standing alone on an iceberg. That image haunted her. She once told her students, real art doesn't come from comfort. It comes from cold, from risk, from fear. They laughed. But Sophia wasn't joking. One evening, as the winter light faded over Hamburg, she booked her ticket, one way to Svalbard, Norway, one of the last inhabited places before the North Pole. It's a land of midnight sun and polar night, where polar bears outnumber people 2-to-1. A place so remote that locals carry rifles, not for sport, but for survival. And in that isolation, Sophia hoped to capture something no one else had, the soul of the Arctic. The camera follows her through the airport, the soft roll of her suitcase wheels, the reflection of snow clouds in her glasses. Her journal is tucked under her arm, filled with sketches of ice fields and notes that read, "If I can photograph a polar bear in its world, I'll finally understand silence." When the plane door opens, the cold slams into her like a wall, air so sharp it burns the throat. The horizon is endless white, broken only by the dark ribs of mountains and the faint orange glow of a sun that never fully rises. Wind whispers across the snow like a voice from another time. A guide named Eric greets her with a smile, his face weathered by years in the Arctic. He hands her a flare gun and says, "Out here, never wander alone. The bears aren't curious, they're patient." She nods, but her eyes are already scanning the ice, searching for movement, for life, for that one perfect frame. She doesn't know it yet, but the North is watching her back. And in the land where beauty wears claws, curiosity can be fatal. Sophia thought she was chasing beauty, but beauty, in the Arctic, always has teeth. The first thing Sophia noticed when she stepped off the small propeller plane wasn't the cold, it was the silence. Not the kind of silence that calms you, but the kind that listens back. Long Yearbayan sat like a frozen memory, tucked between jagged mountains and an ocean of ice. Only a few hundred people lived here, mostly scientists and guides who'd learned to read the moods of the Arctic. Even the wind had a rhythm, slow, deliberate, like breathing. Drone shot, endless snowfields under pale blue light, a cluster of wooden cabins swallowed by fog. Eric Johansson was waiting at the airstrip, tall, broad-shouldered, with a beard that looked like it had weathered 100 storms. He greeted Sophia with a short nod. "Welcome to Svalbard," he said, adjusting his fur-lined hood. "The last stop before the North Pole." She smiled, her breath turning to frost in the air. He handed her a flare gun, its orange casing bright against the white horizon. "Rule number 1, he said, never travel without one. Out here, silence isn't empty. It's watching." They rode out on snowmobiles, the engines muffled by wind. The landscape unfolded endlessly. Glaciers like cracked glass, frozen rivers glinting under the weak Arctic sun. Sophia lifted her camera again and again, capturing what she called the quiet chaos of nature. Her voice cracked through the radio. "It's so empty, it feels like another planet." Eric replied, "That's the problem. People forget they're not supposed to be here." He pointed toward a ridge. The camera pans, a single set of enormous paw prints leading down from the ice shelf. "Polar bears travel miles for food," Eric explained. "They can smell prey from nearly a kilometer away, even through snow." He paused, scanning the horizon. "And lately, they've been hungrier." The group set up camp as the light began to fade. The sun never truly sets this far north. It just dips beneath the horizon, painting the ice in ghostly pink. Sophia walked a few paces away, her boots sinking into soft snow. Her camera clicked once. Then, just beyond the ridge, something moved. A shadow, slow and deliberate, cutting through the mist. Eric froze, raising his rifle, not to hunt, but to warn. The Arctic had been quiet long enough. Now, it was answering back. The world around Sophia was silent, too silent. Even the wind, once howling through the fjord, seemed to hold its breath. The snow beneath her boots whispered with every cautious step as she edged past the faded safety marker, camera gripped tightly in her trembling hands. She knew she wasn't supposed to cross that line. Every Arctic guide repeated the same warning. In Svalbard, the ice belongs to the bears. But in that moment, standing beneath a sky painted pink and gold by the midnight sun, Sophia wasn't thinking about danger. She was thinking about beauty, about capturing something eternal. Through her lens, the world looked like a dream. The soft glint of frost on the horizon, the faint shimmer of ice crystals floating in the air, and then movement. A shape, massive, slow, almost spectral. She adjusted the zoom, her breath fogging the glass, and there it was, a white silhouette gliding across the frozen plain. A polar bear. For a wildlife photographer, that was the holy grail. Her pulse quickened. Just a few meters closer, she whispered to herself. The snow crunched beneath her as she crept forward, heart hammering so hard she could feel it in her ears. The Arctic cold bit into her skin, but adrenaline burned hotter than fear. The bear moved with eerie grace, nose low, paws silent against the snow. Polar bears are apex predators, curious, intelligent, and dangerously unpredictable. Locals in Svalbard often say that when you see a bear, it's already seen you long before. But Sophia didn't think about that. Through her camera, she saw not a predator but perfection, a living embodiment of the wild she loved so fiercely. Her finger hovered over the shutter. Click. The sound echoed like a heartbeat through the frozen emptiness. Another shot, closer now. Her lens caught the condensation rising from the bear's breath, the sunlight catching in its fur like powdered gold. It was beautiful, too beautiful. Then the bear stopped. Its head turned slowly. For the first time, Sophia saw its eyes, small, black, and locked directly on hers through the lens. A shiver tore through her chest. Easy, stay calm, she muttered under her breath, lowering the camera just an inch. The silence fractured. A low, guttural sound rolled across the ice, a sound ancient and raw. Then came the roar that would haunt the Arctic forever, slicing through the wind like a scream. The moment the bear charged, the world shattered. One heartbeat, she was a photographer focused on her subject. The next, she was prey. Sophia froze. The snow beneath her boots trembled as the massive shape broke into a sprint, its paws thudding like distant explosions against the ice. Polar bears can weigh over 500 kilograms and still run faster than a human. She didn't know that fact consciously. It just became reality. The camera slipped from her hands, landing with a dull thud. Her scream vanished into the wind. "Back! Get back!" shouted Eric, the guide, his voice slicing through the chaos. He fumbled with the flare gun, hands shaking from both cold and terror. Red smoke hissed into the air, cutting across the blizzard like a desperate signal to the gods. But the bear didn't stop. It didn't even slow down. Sophia stumbled backward, boots sinking into soft drifts. Her breath came in ragged bursts, each gasp freezing on her lips. The sound of the bear's roar drowned out everything. The wind, the shouting, the world. It wasn't just a sound, it was a vibration that lived inside the chest, primal and unstoppable. "Shoot it! Shoot it now!" someone yelled. But firing a rifle in the Arctic isn't simple. The cold jams metal, numbs fingers. In Svalbard, guides carry guns as last resorts, not weapons but warnings. The bear was too close for warnings. Sophia's last clear thought was strange. "I just wanted the perfect shot." Her glove slipped off as she fell, bare hand pressed into snow that burned like fire. A flash, white fur, teeth, chaos. The camera recorded fragments, her scream, the blur of motion, the color red spreading across white. Eric pulled the trigger. The flare streaked upward, missing by inches. It exploded uselessly into the sky, a red star fading into nothing. The bear didn't care. It lunged again. The next moments were a blur, panicked shouting over radio static, the helicopter's distant thump growing louder, the storm swallowing everything in a whiteout. For minutes that felt eternal, there was only the hiss of wind and the faint echo of gunfire. When rescuers finally reached the site, the snow was still falling gently, covering the scene like a shroud. The ice had turned red. And when the helicopter finally landed, it was already too late. When the storm cleared, the Arctic fell silent again. No screams, no gunfire, only the wind whispering across the frozen plain where Sophia Müller's footprints ended. Days later, rescue teams found what was left: a torn tent, a flare gun half buried in snow, and a frost-covered camera lying near the edge of the ridge. Inside, the memory card was miraculously intact. That's how the world saw her final moments. Not through the lens of tragedy, but through her own eyes. Klaus, her brother, was the one who reviewed the photos. In the dim light of a Norwegian research outpost, he scrolled through her last sequence: snowfields, the faint outline of a polar bear in the distance, then motion blur. The final frame was haunting: a flash of white fur, a shape rushing forward, and in the corner, a single gloved hand. He said later, "It was like she kept taking pictures, even as fear took hold." Drone shots sweep over the same frozen expanse where she stood. The landscape looks endless, indifferent. But in Svalbard, beauty has always walked side by side with danger. Polar bears are powerful apex predators, capable of breaking through ice to hunt seals. Experts say they rarely attack humans, unless hunger drives them close to settlements or camps. For Sophia, that razor-thin line between fascination and fatality disappeared in seconds. Back in Germany, her final photograph made headlines: "Tourist killed by polar bear in Arctic." Photographer's last moments caught on camera. But beyond the shock value, people saw something else: a haunting reminder of what it means to chase wonder too far. Klaus later returned to the Arctic, placing her camera, now sealed and preserved, inside a small memorial at Longyearbyen's edge. He said he could still feel her presence in the wind, as if the Arctic itself remembered her. The cello hum deepens. Wind fades to near silence. The screen slowly transitions from her blurred final image to the wide white horizon. Sophia Müller came to capture the beauty of the wild and became part of its story. Her final photograph wasn't just of a polar bear, it was of the moment wonder turned into warning.